Oh, hi! Welcome back to my channel. My name is Marisa, and today we're going to be talking all about the problems and solutions regarding counter depth refrigerators. So I posted a video about a year or so ago that highlights the 10 mistakes I made when we were designing our kitchen, and one of them is the selection of fridge that I chose. It is a counter depth fridge, and the feedback on that one mistake that I made has blown my mind. There are a lot of opinions and thoughts about counter depth refrigerators, whether they work, whether they're good, whether a large family can use them or ways to conceal them. Anyways, I thought it deserved its own video because of the amount of conversation we have surrounding this very passionate topic of counter depth refrigerators. Before we dive in, I would love it if you would take a second and hit subscribe and be a part of this growing community. I post a new design video every Thursday, and I would love for you to be a part of what we're doing here. Let me just give a shout out to all my viewers from Europe. I love that so many of you guys are viewing from Europe and that you make comments about what you think is a small fridge is not a small fridge, or what you think is a small kitchen is not a small kitchen. I love that, and I love the lifestyle that comes with having smaller kitchens and smaller fridges, walking to the store, buying your groceries for the couple of days. I love that, and maybe one day I will get the opportunity to live in Europe and experience what you guys talk about in my comments because it sounds delightful. Where I live, we do grocery shopping for about a week or two at a time, and we don't go to like regular local markets often. I don't live in a walkable neighborhood, so we drive everywhere. So having a decent sized fridge in order to store the food you have yet to prepare and to house your leftovers is kind of important for the area of the world that I live in. And I know from some of your comments that it's important based on the area of the world that you live in too. So this video is really intended to help you, if you're in my kind of a situation, figure out how to get the best counter depth refrigerator that you can to suit your lifestyle for where you live and for what your world needs. Number one, when you are choosing an appliance to fit within a certain size space, you're really limited to your options. Had I had more options, I would have selected a wider counter depth refrigerator. This simply means instead of getting extra space that goes back further, I would have extra space that is wider, still providing me with more cubic feet inside the fridge, which is really important when you're looking at a counter. Oh, hi, Marley. Marley, you want to say hi to everybody? What do you think of the snow outside? So when you are shopping for your counter depth refrigerator, you're gonna wanna take a look at the cubic feet. Mine is 22 cubic feet. 5.6 of that is in the freezer. So you're just gonna wanna kind of compare it to the fridge that you currently have. And if you look inside your fridge and see the label, you'll see how much cubic feet you currently have. That should really help you to determine, can I make the leap from what I currently have to what I'm considering buying? And if not, try to go wider with your counter depth refrigerator. The other thing you wanna give some consideration to is the configuration. Mine is really basic. So if I wanna adjust the shelf heights, it's like really cumbersome. I have to like pull out the shelf and adjust it. Whereas I have some friends who have counter depth fridges and they've got like really cool things. You just like push a button and like half the shelf kind of bumps underneath the back of the shelf and it opens up a whole front section at the fridge that can allow you to temporarily store something that's taller than normal. Or some of the shelves move easy, or they slide so that if you have a double wide shelf, it just slides over, and then now half is on one side of the fridge, half is on the other, and you can put like a tall pot or something in there if you need to store something just for a couple of days and quickly reconfigure your fridge back to how it was when you're done. Mine is not like that. It's really cumbersome to adjust the shelf height. So consider that when you are looking for a counter depth refrigerator. Is it customizable? Does it have the cubic feet that I think I'm gonna need for the lifestyle that I live, for the amount of people that I feed? And then just in general, check out the inner configuration. So if you have an ice maker, for example, on the top portion of your fridge, there's gonna be a chunk of the door space that's taken up from that ice maker. Or if you have a water filtration system, all of that takes up a little bit of the real estate inside the fridge. So just keep that in mind when you're shopping for your counter depth refrigerator, and make sure you're looking for all of these little things. Every square inch helps. So if you can put your ice maker in the freezer, for example, that might be a better solution for you than having it right there in the door, taking up some valuable door space that could store some food. Okay, so let me tell you some of the problems and maybe some of the things you want to keep in mind if you are shopping for a counter depth refrigerator. I made the comment that I would never get one again, but after having so much interaction about this topic with you guys, I think there are some things that you could do to be a little more strategic when choosing your counter depth refrigerator, and I'm hoping this video is gonna help you with that. Another thing I'm not a huge fan of is the inner configuration of ours, but I have since seen other counter depth refrigerators that are just laid out better. It's like someone really thought it through, and the way the shelves are and the drawer spaces are, how much space the drawers take up, they just are lovely. And so take a look at the inner configuration and just see, is it customizable, or are you gonna kind of be stuck with it the way that it is? Has somebody really thought it through well? And if so, it might be a really great option for you. If you already have a counter depth fridge, which many of you have commented saying, I also hate my counter depth fridge. Okay, here's a couple solutions. If you don't have one yet, just keep these in mind because you might find them helpful should you choose to move to a counter depth refrigerator. The first one would be to really organize your fridge. I have a friend here on YouTube, her name is Sarah. Her channel is Our Tribe of Many. She is a mom of 11 and she has to be organized, and of course she has to have a fridge to house the food that she needs to make and store for her massive family. And one of the ways she organized her fridge was by labeling the shelves. So I copied her. I'll link her channel in the description box below. You guys should go check her out. She's so adorable and her family is absolutely lovely. And if you ever wonder what grocery shopping for that size family looks like, her grocery hauls are so fascinating. So I decided to take her advice and I labeled the shelves in my fridge, and I'm shocked at how helpful this has been. It has been helpful because it puts on everyone in the family's radar the fact that there is a space for something specific. Does it get used perfectly 100% of the time? No, but it is, oh my gosh, I would say 80% better than what it was before I labeled the shelves. This just lets everyone know there's a space for stuff, try to put it back in the space that's designated for that, and when we all do that, the space ends up working better because it was thought through and labeled accordingly, you know? So organize the space. Another way I've organized it is by getting clear bins just from the dollar store and kind of containing and housing certain things. So I put my bags of milk. Here in Canada, we have bagged milk. So we put our bags of milk in a clear bin. I also have one that kind of comes in and out as it's needed, and it is for raw meat. If I get a food order or if I get my HelloFresh delivery and there's some different kinds of raw meat I'll be cooking over the next couple of days, I like to house them in this container. Not only does it keep it isolated in that one space in the fridge, but if there's ever any like condensation or leaking or like yucky messes, you know, that accidents can happen sometimes, it catches them all in this container. Throw the container in the dishwasher. Way easier of a mess to clean up than if it drips down onto different shelves in the fridge. Also, I've made a habit of purging regularly. You know how sometimes you want to make a recipe and you don't have an ingredient, let's say a jar of something, and so you buy that jar of something, then you make that recipe and you're not going to make it for like, I don't know, another year? Check the expiry date, and literally if it's not going to be used between now and then, I've just gotten in the habit of passing it along to someone who will use it, or purging it, or putting it in a small container and freezing it. Just keeping my fridge constantly purged and cleaned out has gone a really long way in making me feel like I have far more usable space. I'm not housing a jar of barbecue sauce all winter long if I'm not going to barbecue until the summer. Does that make sense? So super simple, but I keep my fridge purged on the regular now. And finally, the last thing that I started to do is I choose the smallest container possible when putting something in the fridge to store. Okay, that might sound like a no-brainer, but let me give you an example. I will buy a roasted whole chicken, or maybe I will roast a whole chicken myself, and then all of that meat needs to be stored. Well, what I used to do was get a container that would store all of that meat. But then as you use that meat, there's a whole bunch of empty space in that container to house the little meat that's left. So what I started doing is, for things like that, and even for leftovers, is splitting it up into 2 containers, so that when the first half of the meat is gone, that whole container is out of the fridge, and all that's left is a smaller container that houses the other half of the chicken. Does that make sense? I'll do that with leftover pasta or leftover soup, or really any leftovers. I'll put them in smaller containers so that as we use part of it, I'm just taking that container right out of the fridge and I've made more space available for other things. It's really just a matter of being like mindful and organized when you're trying to work with a small space. Speaking of a small fridge, I'm actually going to be doing a video next week that's all about small closet spaces. Again, relative for where you live. Where I live, I have what is considered a starter home, a smaller home, and I have what's considered smaller bedrooms and smaller closets. So that's the audience that this video is directed at. Again, everyone's situation is different. Where you live in the world, my house may look like a mansion compared to you, or you may be watching me and be like, yeah, like that's your main floor is the size of my master bedroom. I get it. I totally understand. So this video is really gonna be for those of you who also have what I'm gonna call a smaller space, meaning a 3-foot closet in your master bedroom for you, gosh, I haven't measured it, but I'm gonna say it's a 2-foot at the most wide linen closet, and then our front closet, which we were able to expand and make bigger when we did our home renovation. But I'm just gonna show you some tips of how I managed to keep everything organized and contained in small closets behind closed doors, and hopefully they will provide some tips for you if you also have your own small space. You guys, happy hunting for your counter depth refrigerator. I hope that if you have one, I hope you love it. If you don't have one, I hope this helps you make a really wise decision before you spend the money on an expensive appliance that you end up being frustrated by, or maybe these tips will help it not be such a frustrating experience for you like it was for the first little while of my experience with the counter depth refrigerator. I get it, first world problems. I love my kitchen. I love the space that I have that I get to call my own. This is just simply me trying to help make your life a little bit better based on some things that I learned that were frustrations to me at one point. At the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. I hope you have a great day. We'll see you back here next week, and I am loved.